Doctors, nurses who deliver babies, what are some strange funny things people have screamed while giving birth? When my brother was born, they had to use forceps to get him out. My mom saw them and screamed, "Those are salad tongs. You are not putting any goddamn kitchenware in there." My mother's labor was extremely short. I was born within an hour. So that means that she went from experiencing minimal pain to extreme pain with little time to adjust. When my dad was driving her to the hospital, he unfortunately had to stop for gas. He went in to pay, and just then an elderly man in a wheelchair stopped him, asking him to buy cigarettes for him as the store was not wheelchair accessible. My mom then proceeded to lean out the window, yelling, "Don't help the cripple." We have never let her forget that one. Edit. Didn't think anyone would actually see this. Glad everyone got a laugh out of it. I'm white. Irish ancestry, so I had red hair when I was a child. And my wife is black. Her sister was also in the delivery room. When the baby crowned, her sister told her she could see the baby's hair. My wife, who can barely breathe, blurted out, "The hair isn't red, is it?" Apparently she was terrified the baby would be black with red hair. My roommate and I just finished our labor and delivery rotation in July. During one of the births she was helping out in, the mom and the dad were separated but still good friends. So while this woman is pushing out her baby, she begins to half tell half scream that my roommate should date her ex, the baby daddy. The conversation went something like this: "Mom, you should really." Screams in pain. "Go out with." Screams again, "Him sometime. He's really fun." "Dad, I wouldn't mind some drinks sometime. What are you doing this evening?" No, she did not go out with him. Paramedic here. Delivered a baby for a lady who did not realize she was pregnant and called us for abdominal pain patient. You are an idiot. I am not f***ing pregnant, me. Well, I can see a head crowning patient. That must be a f***ing tumor. The tumor was a healthy baby girl. Mom was totally sweet afterwards, BTW. When my sister was in labor, she was screaming and our mom was trying to be comforting. "It'll be okay. Take some deep breaths. It'll be over soon." Then my sister looks up at our mom and says, "You have no idea what this is like. Full stop. You just wouldn't understand. Mom." Patient fully dilated. Started pushing. Then changed her mind. "I don't wanna do this. I'm going the FCK home." Then tried to get off the table. EMT who did a birth on the side of the road. Woman shouted "FCK me" during a contraction and the husband casually replied, "That's how we got into this mess." Damn it. Full stop. I had a very hard time containing myself. One lady was too posh to swear when in pain from contractions. When I was born, my dad didn't know that babies are usually born face down. I was high on meds at the time. I was begging for barbecue ribs in between contractions. Come on, honey. The nurses will never know. They were standing right there. Apparently, when my aunt was giving birth, she was all jokes. Very angry jokes. But jokes nonetheless. Knock knock. WHO's there. The baby. Not yet. Not a doctor, but a father. When my first child was born, his head was kind of misshapen. And when the doctor lifted him up to show my wife, she yelled, "Why the FCK does he look like a raptor?" I lost it. My mom almost punched her best friend when I came out with my head all funny. My mom said, "How does she look?" And her friend's response was, "Kind of like E.T." My mom didn't have a sense of humor about it. My dad has told me they thought I was a girl all the way up to birth. I came out as a C-section and the doctor goes, "Huh. This one's got extra equipment. Peter." After Carol has given birth. Oh. My god. Lewis. What? Peter. Hold the crying baby. It's a beautiful baby girl. Carol. Oh. A baby girl. I'm so happy. Peter. But she has a penis. Well. We'll have to do something about that. Grabs a scalpel, Lewis. Takes the scalpel, Peter. No. It's a boy. My wife told me. In a satanic voice. To get better ice chips. These suck. Full stop. I am not sure what the quality issue was. But I ran and got her a different cup full. I'm a nurse. But I'm also a mom. My husband told me when I was breathing the laughing gas I screamed I'm Lady Darth Vader. As I was pushing. Then I asked the doctor if he felt my tonsils when he had his arm up there. These are my co-workers. I'm a nurse and one of the strangest things that I've seen happen while someone is giving birth is one patient decided to tell her boyfriend that it wasn't his baby. That made the whole room silent and the boyfriend just left without saying a thing. My wife worked as a nurse near a military base and had so many women grab her during labor when the husband would step out to go to the bathroom or was across the room and say tell him the baby is early late. I had an affair while he was deployed and it is not his. I always felt bad for them. During labor. About a half an hour before the god-awful ripping and tearing. I was losing my shit. My older sister panicked and ran around the room. My mom, the birth coach, said to my sister to give me a focal point. Something to concentrate on so I didn't jump out of the nearest window. My sister lifted her shirt and shows us her boobs. Hilarity and awful pain ensued. After a long contraction, I said quietly I'm gonna set everyone in this room on fire. Everyone laughed. Including the nurse. But I think my devoutly Christian mother-in-law started to cry. Not exactly during labor but right after. I had a very bad tear during natural childbirth which meant lots of stitches. Add to that it was training day for one of the med students and it was taking a long time. A really long time. Finally I look down between my knees and ask. What the hell? Are you guys weaving a friendship bracelet down there? Both doctors, the intern, and the med student burst out laughing so hard they had to stop working. Apparently there was some issue with how the intern was stitching me up and things had gotten tense. This lightened the mood quite a bit. After I had my son I was pretty wasted on all the pain meds they'd given me. I looked at my husband and said honey, Condoleezza Rice is out there waiting for me. Tell her I can't come out to play today. I just had a baby. My third. I was delirious so I don't remember much, hyperventilating because I thought something was wrong. Pain was much more intense than my first two. I get to the hospital at 11:15. Have my son at 11:24. After everything is calmed down the nurses start giggling. I had a C-section and was pretty out of it. When they held up my daughter and said here's your baby. I responded that's not mine. I've never seen it before in my life. Take it to Lost and Found. As a nursing student I was watching a planned C-section. The procedure was being performed by the senior resident. Everything seemed to be going well when I heard the resident mutter whoops and I looked up and saw blood squirting out. Pulsing. She fixed the artery very quickly but it obviously freaked out mom and dad. Everything turned out okay for mom and baby. Haha sounds like what I do. I teach swim lessons and if a kid who can't swim or barely can swim fall of the side I casually walk over while he flailing for his life. I just pick them up and continue with the lesson like nothing happened. Some parents don't like it but I haven't lost one yet. It's also about teaching them not to freak out if they fall in. If I freak out, they'll read my body language and it kinda shakes them up. If I'm chill about it, they don't give a second thought that they could have drowned. First words to my son. You better be awesome cause the f-king hurt a lot. At one point when I was having contractions I said foo-woo-uck really loud and long and my husband said there's $1 for the swear jar which is our little inside joke. But the nurse thought he was serious and tried to give him a condescending lecture about how painful childbirth is. Until I told them both to shut the FCK up or get murdered because seriously shut the FCK up. A friend's mom is a nurse. Nurse? Have you seen the mucus plug? Woman in labor. Yeah. That moron went out to have a cigarette. I actually do deliver babies. Most women don't scream anything coherent. It takes too much energy to form clear thoughts. Much less say them out loud. If anything, they say things they want. Like water. But always very short sentences. My back. My clit. It burns. Oh god. I can't. No more. Why isn't it coming? What's wrong? Pull it out. A young couple. Mom and dad were both around 18 if I recall correctly. First baby for them both. Mom's pushing and dad is doing this awkward jig wanting to be helpful but not really knowing how to be helpful. At one point I say, okay. We can see the head now, still a while to go, and dad jumps up. Runs to the counter. Puts on rubber gloves. And gets into football receiving position. Like 10 feet away from mom's legs. We all burst out laughing and he was very embarrassed to learn that babies do not shoot out across the room to be caught like a football. When my mother was pregnant she and my dad decided to have an amnio. A stand-in doctor was there the day she found out the results. And despite mum's instructions that she did not want to be told the sex, the doctor congratulated her on having a healthy little boy. My mum freaked out and decided not to tell my dad, so as not to ruin the surprise. Fast forward to the day of my birth. I'm brought into this bright world without a penis. The doctor congratulates my mother on her little girl. My mum responds by yelling, "You've got to be f***ing kidding me." Full stop. Silence from everyone in the room. The doctor then has a serious chat with my mum about loving me even though I am a girl. etc. etc. Turns out the amnio results were mixed up with another woman of the same name. Yeah. Quite the confuzzle. Not a doctor, but during the birth of my firstborn I kept screaming, "I gotta poop. I gotta poop." Actually, it was her head creating pressure as it was coming down the birth canal. Felt just like an 8-pound poop. Not nurse doctor. When my mom was delivering me, she pulled my dad down to her level by his shirt and said, "Get the FCK out of my face." No one was responding to the call button as my mom was giving birth, so she yelled, "Do something, honey." So my dad ran out into the hallway and screamed at the top of his lungs. "It's showtime and I'm not a very good catcher." Clearly you have an exceptional memory. The delivery nurse for my son's birth was about 4 feet 11. She kept talking to me and I couldn't see her over my belly and legs. It was really frustrating. She said, "Do you want me to pull down the mirror so you can see?" I was like, "I don't need the goddamn play-by-play, let's just do this." I apologized afterwards. She laughed. Oh. Just thought of another one. For one of my pregnancies I ended up having an emergency C-section. I was drugged to the eyeballs and I remember really liking one of the nurses because she smiled a lot and quoted poetic lyrics from my favorite songs. When the drugs wore off I remembered I was the one quoting the lyrics. No wonder she was so smiley. My fiance is a doctor and my mother's a nurse. So I'm claiming the titles by association for the purposes of this thread. My mother was unexpectedly having her 4th child and chose not to find out the sex. We like surprises everywhere. Apparently, for some reason, she became convinced it was a boy and would have bet the house on it. In the delivery room, they hand the baby to my dad and he joyfully tells my mom that they have a new baby girl. Mom. What? No. Check again. Dad. I'm pretty sure it's a girl. Honey. Mom. You're not looking hard enough. To this day she doesn't remember this. My wife had her epidural for the C-section and at one point asked, "Is it out yet? I really should get home now?" So I answered, "No honey. They still busy cutting." Her reply had the entire orange stitches, "Okay. Tell them to neaten up while they're in there." Apostrophe. Oops, not a doctor. I was standing in the corner under strict instructions not to faint or throw up. Right after my son was born via C-section, I was still higher than a hippie at Woodstock from the drugs they gave me. They handed me my beautiful newborn son and the first words out of my mouth were, "Oh my god. His scrotum is huge." Then I laughed hysterically. To be fair, it really was. During my birth, aside from my husband, my best friend was in the room. She had recently been certified as a doula. For those of you that don't know, a doula is support for the mother. They don't do anything medical, but can help support the mom or her partner, help with pain solutions, etc. I stubbornly wanted to deliver without drugs, and during a particularly bad contraction she leaned in and told me to think of my Wanda Focus, something you are looking forward to learning about your child when they are born, like an incentive. So hair color, weight, sex, etc. I looked her square in the face and told her to shut up with her hippie bullshit. I was in labor for 22 hours. Pushes for 2.5. For those of you who don't know, an average first time childbirth is around 12 hours with around 10-30 minutes of pushing. Needless to say, I was f***ing tired. About 2 hours into pushing I couldn't push anymore. I said I can't. The doctor yelled at me and I lost it. "Shut your Ray mouth." It got me mad enough, and around 5 pushes and 3 snips later I popped out a 10-pound baby. We found out post-delivery that I had literally ripped my uterus, which is why it took so long and hurt so bad. So much blood. Edit. I should clarify that I called my doctor a Re. Not the other way around. I was married when I had my son. Ripped uterus. Just tape it back together. Not a doctor, but was present for my cousin's birth. My 90-year-old grandma was there, sitting on the other side of the curtain. She wanted to be present but didn't want to see anything. She had never witnessed a birth before and doesn't remember anything about having her own 4 children. As the baby came out, everyone on the birthing side of the curtain was cheering and excited. This caused my grandma to decide she needed to open the curtain to see what was going on. She actually clutched her chest and fell back into her chair in horror. Nearly 12 hours of labor, and to this day, that's about the only thing I remember. Oh goody. I've been doing this for the past month on a rotation. I think by far the one that made me and the nurses laugh the most was a woman with a thick Jamaican accent that kept saying "oh you bad boy" over and over in between contractions pushes. Edit. She was having a boy. My most vivid memory from a 3-month obstetrics rotation over a decade ago. Screamed by the largest Glaswegian woman I've ever seen. Take IT back. FCKing take IT back. Not me, but my mom delivers babies. She was telling me that one time there was a woman that went to push and open up her mouth and had the longest drawn out scream ever. It was so long that everyone was kind of looked at each other, checked their watches and tapped their foot. Once she was done, my mom went up to her and said, "You only get to do that once during a delivery and you just used yours. Apparently when you scream it takes all the power from your push. Just try pooping and screaming and you'll get the idea." Apparently this woman was actually a psychiatrist. Mind over matter, am I right? I'm laughing at the image of Redditors worldwide pooping and staring straight ahead, yelling shamelessly as William Wallace leading an army of rebels into battle. I was in the delivery room because the father wasn't available. She knew it was a girl for some time, but as they put the baby on her after it was born, she looked down, saw the umbilical cord and yelled out, "H registered sign, registered sign, registered sign, registered sign, Y. It is a boy." I don't remember this because I was very out of it, but I've seen the video. Hubby wanted to see how I was doing and he pulled off my oxygen mask and asked how I felt. I started in with the litany against fear from Dune. I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. Kind of a complimentary story, but a friend of mine is a delivery nurse. And she's crazy. On her first real assignment with all of her training staff watching, she hoisted the baby over her head and made the Lion King sound. We have a doctor that routinely does this. And watch out if you're new to the unit. He'll go to hand the baby to you and pretend to almost drop it. Just had a child 9 days ago. My wife's first comment after they gave her the painkiller in the IV was whoa. Her second comment was I am so high. All these funny stories makes me feel bad. Because as soon as I felt pain I got an epidural and 2 pushes later the baby sorta just fell out. You give me hope for the future of my lady parts. They gave me something for pain before my actual epidural and I kept telling my husband that I was FK'd up. And he said sweetly, please don't tell the nurses that. So when they came in and asked how I was feeling, I looked at my husband and said, oh. Crap. What was I supposed to say instead of FK'd up? But really. I was FK'd up. IT's coming out my butt. Not a doctor. Just a person who has given birth twice. With both of my children I cursed quietly under my breath the entire time because I watched an episode of Mythbusters that said cursing helps with the pain. The nurses said that I came up with the quietest and most unique curses they ever heard. I also made some sort of mooing sound during contractions. I have no idea where that came from. With my youngest, I was pushing. She was about to crown. And I looked at the doctor and asked when I could be released cause I didn't want to be stuck in the hospital for very long. We were out 24 hours later. Close bracket. The only time I yelled was during my first labor when my husband wasn't holding my leg correctly during pushing. I screamed hold it correctly you stupid FCK. I was also present during the birth of my niece. I may have yelled OFCK while she was coming out.